So come take invest. We're talking about investing, finance, and professional development. For today's items only, the investment gun talk today will be Ethereum TH. So it's my second posting as of today. Respect to recording time of 5:58 p.m. on the Eastern time. Ethereum currently trading $3,946, down about 2.64% so far. On the main coin respectively for Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's currently down about close to respective 3% so far, while at the same time the altcoin side of the world are kind of trading on a sideways fashion, kind of hovering away down about or up about 0.52% respectively, while Solana seems like it's still kind of struggling around the $195 mark, which is technically the resistance level that we identified in the technical analysis. As we saw earlier today, we have hit all the way to be above $200 mark to attempt to hit the $215 as an all-time high that we touched on for a brief moment a while back. It seems like we're trying to revisit the same momentum earlier today, but subsequently it got reversed across the whole crypto market, but also on the equity market. Right, with respect to the news that got picked up around like 1 p.m. or like 2 p.m. Eastern time regarding the U.S. officials keeps a close watch on the Delta Plus, the COVID mutation. Seems like it's spreading in the United Kingdom, which when you hear something like that on a macro level perspective, despite crypto as a safe haven type of commodity or investment vehicle, it still drove some fear mongering among investors, which subsequently drives sell off across the board, including equity and crypto at the same time. So, with respect to that affectation, it also trigger these weekend affectation on top of the COVID news, on top of the technical reversal that we've been discussing about. So before I dive into the technical, let's go through the news first. Apologies again for posting a little bit later than usual, 6 p.m. right now. I've just finished up, some of my meetings and also was working on a presentation, like more PowerPoints, like PDF, if you may. So I just had to like spend some time to work on that earlier today. So apologies for the delay again. So first one on Bazinga took out about 2 hours ago, talk about Ethereum Classic could break short-term resistance and pop towards long-term resistance soon. So it seems like this is something that is, will have some correlation effects to obviously the classic Ethereum, but also with respect to the key coins that we're also looking at Ethereum as well, that if there were some sort of, surge, that is coming based on the technicals, we should be technically seeing some drag effect that will correlate with obviously Ethereum price point as well. But as of now, I would say, on a macro level, definitely leaning more towards a bearish side of the sentiment right now. Based on what we're seeing right now, it seems like, for Ethereum specifically, we could never really get to the all-time high that we were expecting to. As we got to basically just a hairline away, from the 4,377, but the technical level was the 4,400-ish, right? So we're basically like $30 off, and people or investors on the public side specifically were not incentivized to want to, subsequently surge it up. On top of the drag effects from Bitcoin, which is selling down from the 67,000, which technically is the all-time high in comparisons to months ago when we're at the $64,500 mark. So definitely something that is quite interesting in the current dynamics at the moment. The next one on Decrypt about 3 hours ago, Ethereum Altair upgrades is next week. And here's what's next. So this is I foresee this to have some sort of comparable affectation to the London hard fork that happened about a couple weeks ago. More like an anticipatory pressure, buying up until that point. But ultimately, it's still binary because it's still a speculation. Are people really anticipating until we have that upgrade, or are we gonna see more surge afterwards? It's more like a sell down ahead of it and then surge, or sell or buy up and then sell down subsequently. So we have to see, right? It's oftentimes an opposite affectation onto the market. So something we have to watch, and I think ultimately, how do we triangulate something that binary is to look into the risk management level by dollar cost averaging wisely per the technical consolidation zone. The next one is talking about another interesting transfer news with respect to Bazinga. It's about 6 hours ago. Talk about this wallet just transferred close to $200 million worth of Ethereum from one wallet to another wallet. So it seems like there are a lot of whale activities that's going on, recently. I would say this is the fourth news that I've captured so far, talking about comparable amount of, of on a monetary perspective of a transfer of the wallet from one to another. So quite interesting. Not sure why there's so many recurring news around this specific, transfer. It doesn't really drive much into the market, but rather and they didn't really specify, is this like a transaction? Is this just like a pure one-to-one exchange? Or is this just people changing wallets, if you may? It doesn't specify, so but it is definitely interesting to see, some of the public investors or institutional investors, and we don't know the characterization of these people either, that they transfer in relatively large amounts in the recent time frame. And the next one is talk about on Decrypt again. 6 hours ago, Reddit building NFT Marketplace to join Ethereum tokens rewards. So it seems like this is another I think a news that we've already heard before about a couple of weeks ago. So it seems like there's more activity and more new developments around the NFT marketplace that Reddit is trying to cultivate into the business value proposition going forward. And then the next one is talking about that's something we talked about earlier this morning is with respect to the futures of the stocks, right? It slipped after the S&P 500 hit all-time high in a recent time frame. As we got there, a lot of sell orders subsequently happened. And also remember, today was the option expiry for Ethereum. I think it was a $450 million of option expiries that's happening today. So I think some of the translations into the sell-off that we're seeing right now, down about close to 3%, that has also something to do with it as well. But ultimately, is quite convoluted with all of these news and frankly, just factors that we need to capsulate into formalizing our executions. So just to make it simple for ourselves, let's just look into the technicals to look at the logical consolidation zone before you make the logical decisions to invest. Right. And that's pretty much it on the news front. So let's perfect timing, go straight into the technical. So right now we're trading at $3,949, down about 2.57%. Is recording as of 6:06 p.m. on the Eastern time. So with respect to current level, we could not get there. As you can see on the day of 21st, basically yesterday, we tried to break all-time high, but because of the lack of pressure, Bitcoin basically dragged the whole market down. So it's kind of like we got there, but just not enough, right? It's just like just almost there, right? I know it could be a little bit frustrating because we were anticipating that we'll break all-time high, right? Especially we are in mid-October right now. I know a lot of people are forecasting that we'll hit 10K by the end of this year. I think that sounds quite unreasonable based on the setup right now, because ultimately we still overbought. We're still at the 63 out of 70. We're forming a curvature right now. So as we sell down back to the 3,843, we ideally would be forming a death cross, right? And as we get there, we will hit the 34 and then ideally go into 31, which is very logical because we still have a lot of room to fall down to. And you see how sharp the sell-off is right now. So definitely watch out, but don't panic. This is something that is supposed to happen. We need to go back to the anger and depression stage, right? We can, it's not logical to skip steps, right? You need to kind of go through that oscillation. You need to go through that recycle of the monetary value to come back into reviving the rally going forward, which we aim for next year in Q1, Q2, right? So that's the level for Ethereum. Let's look at Bitcoin respectively. So right now it's comparable to Ethereum, very bearish. We are forming a death cross right now. So again, do not panic. This is something that's supposed to happen, right? We got to all-time high, but we just couldn't get there. So we need to sell back down. If we want to hit 100K for Bitcoin later in the future, right? Let's say in Q1 or Q2 next year, we need to deplete back to like the 43, right? And by then we will deplete back to the RSI of below 35 and then recuperate and surge back from there. So Dogecoin right now we are forming some sort of curvature downward. We still leaning more of a upper echelon of overbought. So ideally buy at the 21 and then the 20 cents would be more logical. Cardano is very like stagnant, I would say, and I think we might be forming a downward wedge right now, which is the early signs of a bullish signal. We are at the 46, so not overbought in comparisons to the other three we just talked about. So ideally, again, right, the 205 will be a good level if we get lucky during this weekend, if we see some sell-off, and then that should subsequently do it. And as we confirm on the golden cross, we should technically surge up to ideally to the 240 mark as the highest in the near term. And then Solana is still surging, and you can see that we try again to touch all-time high today, but just not enough, right? It seems like they are giving us a lot of like a taste of all-time high, like retouching it again, and then subsequently sell back down. Definitely a lot of sell orders at the all-time high level that people strategically has placed, and that's why you see this like really tiny candle that you can barely even see it, right? So right now, the cross section is still forming on the golden cross perspective. We're still at 71 up 70, so still overbought. We basically broke below 200, which again is very frustrating, But ideally, to dollar cost average, that would be at bare minimum. For me, even to touch it would be at the 130, 113, 66. I know 66 is really far away, but right now everything is screaming overbought. So especially with this like really sharp surge, that whatever goes up really fast comes down just as fast. So definitely be careful. XRP is currently down about 1.19% so far. It's at the 108 at the moment. So ideally trending down a little bit, to buy at somewhere around like the 101, 93, 88 would be more logical. I think 105 is not a bad level either. So I think XRP could be a good setup going forward, especially we are leaning more of a depletion and then subsequently we should see a golden cross coming. Polkadot right now is forming a whale back. So I think ideally buying at somewhere around like the 30 at the bare minimum, and then ideal at the 26, 25 would be, for my personal risk aversion, for me to even incur some risk around Polkadot. ALGORAND curved up, so I think we should see some bullish momentum. We're at the 55, so I think ideally, but again, for me, I'll just wait until 160, 150 would be more logical, but it is a relatively good setup right now based on how it's set up. But I don't see like a massive surge to go all the way to 250. But I think $2, like close to $2, wouldn't be crazy. Wouldn't be not logical at all. Shiba Inu is still overbought, and I think the sell-off is very imminent. And we are forming a death cross. So I know we're currently being sustained right now, mainly sustained by the whales. But as they confirm on dropping us, we're going to see some negative pressure coming. And I think the gap is really large, so ideally buy at anywhere around like the 800, again, would be more logical. So with respect to the market cycle, I know is quite convoluted, I get it. And we need to get back to anger depression stage for us to recuperate back to the optimism, belief, and thrill, because the monetary value has to circulate from somewhere. We can't just create money out of nowhere. Right, and to do so, to just like, exclude the convolution. Let's just like focus on the risk management level. As we deplete the RSI and the MACD, these are the identified levels that you would ideally want to be dollar cost averaging at. And again, this is my personal level, right? Because of my holdings and my cash reserve that I have allocated for this going forward, right? So it's not for everybody, but I hope that you guys find this helpful for yourself. And yeah, feel free to give me a shout. I know it's a Friday night right now, but apologies again for posting a little bit late. But I think tomorrow my schedule is a little bit more flexible, so I will post at a more of a normal time frame. But I really appreciate you for dropping by again, and stay tuned for us to come up. Take care.